Hello everyone, my name is Craig Lord. I'm 50 years old now, so I've met the halfway mark. I've been living in Auckland since I was 15 years old. I moved up here when I was a 15-year-old. I moved up by myself and I started a job as an engineer. I met a girl and we have been married for 26 years, so we've been together for 32. We've raised two children in Auckland who are now 24 and 20, about to hit 25 and 21, so they're young adults now. And that's basically who I am. I'm part Māori, if people are interested in that. Recently found out that that's my percentage is 39% Māori. I did an Ancestry.com test and found out that 39% and the rest of it is made up of European. That is quite simply who I am. I think it'll be good. People want politicians to solve their problems, but one day they'll wake up and realize that politicians created the problems. So I want to go in not as a politician. I want to go in as someone who has worked in the grassroots, blue collar. I've worked with the people, and through the engineering and the media, I've been able to work with so many different styles of people and companies and businesses, and learning different aspects of businesses from all sorts of different groups, and I can merge them all together to understand what the people want, because I'm one of the people, rather than coming in as a politician, which is what we've had in the past. Our mayors have been former politicians or big time business people who haven't really got that grassroots, what we call blue collar worker exposure. I've had that. I'm the guy off the street who will bring a difference, bring a different way of thinking, and that's really my entire attitude is doing it differently to what we've always had in the past. Because one thing with engineers, we know if you keep doing the same silly things, you'll get the same silly results. So you've got to do things differently. Well, I want a council that does its job. It's so simple. It's like with any supplier of anything. You pay them to provide you with a service. You want that service. It doesn't matter if it's a builder, a mechanic, a plumber, someone who mows your lawns. It does not matter. You pay for that service. You expect that service to be provided economically for you, so you're not being overcharged. You want it done quickly and efficiently. You don't want it to drag on, and you also want a quality job. So I relate that back to that's council's job. We pay with our rates, and we pay when we use facilities and go to functions that Auckland Council organises and takes in money, and then are meant to give us a service back. And a lot of the time I'm seeing the service is not right. And so that's really what sparked everything off for me back in 2018, was I'm paying for something but I'm not getting what I'm paying for. Well, how do we fix that? Do I just make a lot of noise on social media? Do I complain? Do I whinge about it? Do I moan and protest? No, that's not who I am. I'll put up my hand and say, well, I'll sort it then. And so that's why I got into it and how I want things to change. I want council to be the company that provides me with the service I pay for.
And that you could use your industry experience.
Yes.
To really solve the issue.
Yeah, I think it's an advantage that my particular trade of hydraulics and pneumatics as an automation engineer was to design, was to modify, but also repair. So when you get the call, it's stopped working, can you please fix it? Well, that's the same as a mechanic, it's the same as a plumber, it's the same as an electrician. Any of those tradespeople, you can't fix it until you know what the problem is. So I'm bringing a difference that the other candidates don't. I'm bringing the fault finding system into place. So any of those trades, the first thing they have to do is analyze what's going on. So then you find where it's not working, and then you come up with a solution to make it work. Now that could be the same, a real simple way to explain that is if your car's making a noise under the bonnet, you take it to the mechanic, you don't just say to the mechanic, fix it. The mechanic goes, well, I need to look at it first to tell you what's wrong. what it's going to cost, how we can fix it, all the different ideas, and you say to the mechanic, no, just fix it. Well, you can't. And I think that's a lot of the problem with politicians. They just go, well, I'm just going to do this. They haven't analysed, they don't look at the problems, they don't study it, they don't bring in other experts to say, you can't do that because this will happen. You need to be able to find the problem. The mechanic needs to be able to lift the bonnet, look under there and go, there's the problem. Now we know what's wrong. How do we fix it? So that's what we've got to do. And I want to bring that completely through Auckland Council so that every single department inside Auckland Council is audited for its financial responsibility, but its efficiency, its effectiveness, and where things are wrong. Some things might be really good, and we can go, that works brilliant, let's not touch it. But then some bits go, that's not working well at all. Okay, now we know what's wrong, let's find a solution. That's what I want to bring, which is the engineering side of things.
Yeah, that sounds quite interesting. So, do you see Auckland Council as a machine, as a dedicated machine?
Yeah, it is. To me, I treat it as a machine. The problem is at the moment, over the years, even before it became the super city, which is only 10, 12 years old, the machine is made up of a lot of different parts, each individual department doing its particular task. So that machine has got some faults. The machine, it might be leaking oil, it might be some bits are old and need replacing with more modern things, and some bits shouldn't even be there anymore because they're no purpose. So let's remove them and trim it down a bit to make it more efficient. So I try to think of it as a machine. My mentality is working it like that. Every department is just another cog of this machine. They all have to work together like a clock. Every single bit has to work. If one's off, everything's off. So that's why every department needs to be studied and worked on and said, well, we don't need that part anymore. Why is it here? It's costing us money. It would be like an old coal burner or something. It's just costing money and it's doing nothing. So, okay, let's get rid of it. Bring in something better, or if we don't need to bring in anything, that's great. We've saved parts, we're efficient now because we don't need that. That could be a whole department, or it could just be one little bit inside the department. But until you analyse it and fault find everything, you don't know. But also to be clear, that's not the mayor's job. But what I want to do is work with the executive teams to get that happening. That to me is the mayor's job. It's not my job to go in and fix every department of council because that already exists. But if I can bring a style of leadership that says to the executive teams and the departments, yes, actually, let's analyse that little department, I can then step back and say, go, analyse it. Then come back to the councillors and me, I can go back to the people and say, we've found a problem here, we're going to fix it by doing this. That's how it should work. It's a difficult thing because people all have different ideas of what is growth, different ideas on how things where we should attack things, which our vision we should have. But that's because everyone's an individual and everybody has their own ideas. But I want to make that machine work properly. If I can get Auckland Council working properly, it should then make the city work properly, and then everybody can just go about their daily lives, their work, their play, their living, just everything should flow, and it should be so easy to do. So that's my growth. So if we get the city functioning properly, or the service provision to the people of the city working properly, that includes things like just the facilities, the public toilets, the buildings that people use as a community. If they're all ticking along, functioning, maintained, working properly, the footpaths are maintained, the roads are maintained, all those little things that people sort of forget about. And then if they're working properly, no one thinks about them because they're working properly. That means they're not complaining about footpaths falling apart, tree roots are poking through, the trees are hitting power lines, all those sort of little tiny little things. We get all of those sorted out, everybody will just wake up in the morning and just carry on with their lives. To me, that's growth, because then people get on with things. Businesses can get on with what they want to do and be a business. People can get on with raising their families. They can go to the parks. They can have fun. They're not going, I can't get away in traffic. There's no buses. There's no train. All those little things. So I know it's a roundabout way of talking about it, but growth to me is about making everything efficient and then letting people go for it. The city has lost its way, but unfortunately that's not a council job, and that's where the problem is. Because policing is a central government job, and maintaining law and order is a central government job. Where the council steps in my opinion, is making sure that the streets are well lit, that anything such as, say, dark alleys, we can try whatever we can to make that people feel safe in those areas, but that's the limit, because then it is up to the central government to provide the policing to keep its citizens safe across the entire country, which includes Auckland. The other part in that Auckland Council has to play is lobbying government. And by that I mean saying to the government, we want to put in, say, closed circuit television throughout the city in the centre to make people feel secure and be able to watch things. We can't afford it. Can you help? So that's the sort of lobbying we have to do, and negotiations between local and central government. It's saying to central government, we need more police. So we lobby government to provide that. That's the job of a mayor and a representative of the people, is doing that on their behalf. The mayor cannot provide a police station and staff. The mayor and the council cannot suddenly set up security teams. What they can do is help communities create community watch groups. They can help with all of that stuff, but they've got to make sure that they don't cross the line into what central government is meant to provide. And if central government aren't providing it, that's when we have to say, why not? Our people want this, why aren't we getting it? And that's our job. It's basic talking. I don't believe that banging on the desk and saying, we want, will get you anywhere. Human nature, if I was to do that to any business provider, go away. So it's a matter of being professional. You have to be slightly bureaucratic, unfortunately. You have to be diplomatic, unfortunately. There's times when it's needed, but you've got to try and work with them. Now, part of the problem in politics, because it is a political thing, is you might not agree with the political party that happens to be in government at the time, but you've still got to work with them because you're representing the people. And that is a matter of negotiating, sitting down with them, telling them what you need, talking it out across the table, getting input from community groups, bringing that to the table, and basically you can be firm in what we want. We can say, no, we need this. Auckland is the biggest financial provider to the nation. We need help because businesses are losing. We need help now, not 5 years time. We need it now. Come on, you've got to help us. They can still say no. So it's just a matter of communication, negotiations, all that kind of stuff that goes on, just the normal boardroom type of things. It's just people skills. We just got to do it. There's a handful of different things we need to do. One of them is get it working properly again so that it's economical. We have to change the spending culture inside Auckland Council because it's not correct. We lose too much money. We know that there's a financial committee that has done a really good job in saving a lot of money inside Auckland Council, but it's the big dollar stuff like IT, phones, insurances, big dollar stuff that are very easy to trim and get other prices and do that sort of stuff. Where we bleed a lot of our money, which is our rates, and then our income gets wasted, is in our contracting system, the maintenance of our city. That's where we're let down. So I want to completely change that now, which will lead to the point in the question you're making. If we change the way the contract system for work and maintenance happens inside Auckland, we're not spending so much, we're getting a better result, so therefore we're not going to be charging and lifting rates up all the time. Because rates are going up and people go, we can't afford this. So how do we stop that? You can't just say, I'll put a freeze on the rates. You can't do that because rates will always go up. But what we've got to do is change the amount it goes up. So instead of these big leaps, because we can't,
Kind of like
Arguably,
separate camp?
yeah, well, arguably there's a perfect storm and unfortunate storm at the moment because COVID hits it at the same time of inflation and they've all hit at the same time. But if we can save hundreds of millions of dollars in other things, then we don't have to find the money and say to the citizens, right, we're upping your rates. Because we can say to them, hey, we're doing this to save you money so you don't have to keep paying more and more and more to keep your city running. So that's important, rather than just saying, oh, I'm not going to raise rates, we'll do a rates freeze. You can't promise that. What you got to do is find where it's going, find the inefficiencies. You find that, then you can say to the people, awesome, we've found this, that's going to say we don't have to raise the rates by 6%, we can go 2%, which is great, which people can deal with, people can live with that, they know. That makes it livable. In regards to housing, there's a big problem, there's a shortage of housing. We all know that. And supply brings down price. That's a normal business structure. The more you provide, the better the pricing becomes. The problem we've got now with housing is the government have changed the rules. So they're bringing in the new unitary plan, which is intensification, and I really don't like it. Because what they're doing is Auckland Council had already allocated 900,000 sites for new houses, already existed. Auckland Council spent 3 years going right around everywhere in Auckland and working out where they can put housing and then planning the infrastructure to cope with it. The roads, the public transport, the sewers, the wastewater, the incoming water, power, all those things were planned. Unfortunately, the government has just released this new intensification strategy. They've wiped all that, and they're saying to Auckland, now you can build anywhere you want. You don't need permission from your neighbours, you don't need to plan for anything, you just build it. So you can build those 3 properties, 3 stories high, anywhere in Auckland. The council can now no longer plan for its infrastructure. Now that to me is going to make the city even less livable, because not only can anybody suddenly increase the population in one little area, they can do it without Auckland Council's planning, and Auckland Council go, but we don't have the stormwater, we don't have the flooding sorted, we don't have the infrastructure, but the government has said we don't care, they can build there. So it's a major problem, and I want to fight against that. I want to get the next government to reverse that legislation, because our livability is going to drop even more now. So we need to get back to what we want to make it livable, get more houses into the area that Auckland had already planned to do, which will. Hopefully, you'll never stop house rises, but if it shrinks it to stop the big jumps, that's what we've got to do. The crime makes a city livable or not livable, that's a central government. That's council and the mayor going back to government saying, we've got to sort this crime out. We've got to sort our streets out, make them safe. Come on, we need more police, because the biggest earning area in New Zealand is not livable. We've got to fix it. So there's all different parts that come together to make a city livable. That's what we've got to solve, and there's a lot to be done. It's not going to be it's all done. There's so much to do, including the CBD, which is just a dangerous place right now. But we've got to change the CBD to suit. So it's a long process to get it back up to where we used to be. National agreed with this bi-party legislation because they hated the RMA, the Resource Management Act. And yes, the Resource Management Act, the RMA, was a very difficult piece of legislation to work around. That was the rules of when you can build, where you can build, how you can build, all that sort of stuff. That needed some work. Yes, and National kept trying to make that happen, but they're not in power, so they couldn't make it happen. So when Labour went to them and said, well, what we'll do is we'll basically wipe the RMA out, and we'll just say you can build anywhere, so you don't have to do. National went, okay, that's the best, all right, we'll agree to it. They never really thought it through. Yes, this new legislation will potentially put in mass housing, but it also brings with it those serious problems that someone's going to buy a property that will not have stormwater, will not be anti-flood, will not have rainwater, will not have suitable water supply, because it hasn't been planned for, and you don't have to provide it anymore. So they can just build and then go, What's happening an interesting way of saying is, the government have now said that a property developer is going to be the new city planner, because they're saying to the developer, go for it, build the house, see what happens. Well, you can't. There's no planning, and Auckland Council can't look at a map and go, right, we have to change the infrastructure along this section of this suburb. You can't do that because they don't know when a property is going up or where it's going up. So the government have come in and said, don't worry about the planning, don't worry about infrastructure, just build houses. Well, okay, it's going to provide more homes, but it's providing other problems. So it hasn't been thought through. Yep, they need to be. It's important because they're a part of New Zealand. And I don't believe in quotas. Like overseas, they're starting to do things like you must have so many female, you must have so many of this ethnicity, I don't believe in that. What I believe in is everybody should get involved. Everybody, we're all part of it together. So everybody should be putting their hand up. And when it comes to government positions, put your hand up and be voted in and make a difference that way. That's why I did it. Right? And we do need more people who understand our growing multicultural society. We need that. And so the Chinese and Asian community need to put up their hands and say, yeah, we'll be a part of this, we'll help. We'll help grow it, we'll help make it a livable city. Vote for us and we'll get in. Or if they don't want to put their hand up, they need to look at the people who are and say, will that person provide us with what we need to be able to go about our daily lives and do everything we want to do, provide the things that a city should so we can work, live and play. So that's really a twofold from them. I don't think a council should target a community and say, we are going to provide this just for you. Because to me that segregates one community over all the others. So I like to think of everybody as the same. It doesn't matter if your ethnicity was Chinese, Korean, Japanese, or whether you're from Africa, whether you're from Europe or South America, it does not matter. Once you started living here, you're an Aucklander and you're a New Zealander. So you're going to get the same as everybody else. If Auckland Council can provide the same for everyone, then everyone can go, great, let's live here, this will be great, things are going well. So I won't target, I'll give everybody the same service. Council should provide everybody with the same thing. Yeah, vote Craig Lord. That's the first thing. I will provide an equal community. That's what I want to do, and I'll provide a council that works for everyone, regardless of who they are. So again, it comes back to those services. You're paying to live in the city with your rates. If you're renting, you're still paying rates in a way through the landlord. You're paying to live here, you're paying for a service, you're going to get it. I will do everything I can to provide that service like any business should, and it's about time it happened. Rather than just being a political thing as council can be, no, let's make it what it should be, a service provider. That's what I'll do for every community, especially the Chinese, the Asian, the African, as I said before, everyone, all the same.